And welcome back to another episode of Creating Madness Live. I'm your host, Ethan Carboni, along with my co host, Ben Hoyt. Ben, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back.
I'm glad that you're here too. And we have a very interesting live/episode tonight. And that's really going to be because of, besides the AP poll almost completely flipping around, we have some of the worst instances of COVID in sports since the very beginning of it all. And Ben, before we get started on that, give yourself a few shout outs.
All right, my name is Ben Hoyt. My Twitter is at BenHoyt6. You can check out the Curse of Billy Penn and also Prime Time with Hoyt and Wise Cheese. And of course, check out my Garden Valley Broadcasting stuff on my Twitter. I do play-by-play and color commentator for them.
Yep. And we are going to just say right now for the AP poll, it's completely flipped. And we're just going to start with the beginning AP poll. Going from 25 to 1, you have Virginia, UConn, St. Bonnie, Auburn, Maryland, Florida State, North Carolina, Tennessee, Ohio State, Arkansas, Houston, Alabama, Oregon, Memphis, Illinois, Kentucky, Duke, Baylor, Purdue, Michigan, Texas, Villanova, Kansas, UCLA, and Gonzaga. As for the current one, you have Texas Tech, Arkansas, Colorado State, Xavier, Kentucky, UConn, LSU, Tennessee, Texas, Seton Hall, Ohio State, Houston, Auburn, Michigan State, Iowa State, Southern California, Villanova, Arizona, Kansas, Alabama, Gonzaga, UCLA, Purdue, Duke, Baylor. Woo, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a pretty stacked top 25 poll I've seen. Florida State's pretty good, Arkansas is really good, and Villanova's really good. I mean, two of the three most talented teams Penn's played all year. And I mean, I think this is one of the most talented AP polls we've ever seen with players, just the amount of talent on each team. Every team is so stacked. I mean, I was watching Houston play a while back, and they looked like an NBA team. And I don't know how high they are in the Power 5 rankings, but I expect them to go up with time, especially in the conference season and among some other teams as well.
Agreed. And something I think I can find something that I have been saying since the very beginning of time almost. Memphis with Penny Hardaway has been an absolute crap show. They have been absolutely terrible. And this season's proved it. Yes, they just came off a big win against Alabama. I think we're not seeing much from them to the point where Penny Hardaway will be fired at the end of this year. Penny Hardaway has gotten numerous 5-star recruits, numerous top 5 recruits, and he's done nothing with them. The past couple of years, he has not made the tournament. Okay, COVID year, they might have made it then. Sure, they would have made it then, probably. This year, if this Memphis team does not make the tournament, barring injuries or barring a COVID cancellation, I say that you completely up and cancel Penny Hardaway from Memphis basketball.
I'm not sure. Because the one thing that Penny Hardaway does give is like a name. Like, for example, I have to bring my Ivy example, Tommy Amaker. He was a Duke player in the early days, and what people get with Tommy Amaker is a name, and that's why they almost snagged Wendell Carter and Mohamed Bamba. They were in their top 2 with Harvard. I mean, you get tons of recruits for Harvard with Tommy Amaker, and you're going to get tons of recruits from Memphis with Penny Hardaway because he's just a name. And just like even in college football example, Deion Sanders. You think he's, getting recruits because he's the coach at Jackson State? No, he's getting coaches because he's prime time, Deion Sanders. So that's the only reason I would keep him. Now, do I think Memphis is going to make the tournament? Yeah, I'm pretty confident. So I don't think there will be any issues there, but I would keep Penny Hardaway around because, one, who's better, and two, he's a name.
I see where you're coming from. Another instance with my Illinois Fighting Illini. What were they, 11th, I said, or 12th, something like that? They've fallen completely out. Yeah, sure, they're still receiving votes. But if you're projected to be a top 10 team, yes, I understand Andre Curbelo was out. I understand Kofi was out for the first few games. It's unacceptable. If your start is a top 10 team, you should still be in the top 10. If you're Oregon and you're projected to be one of the best teams in the Pac-12, you should be one of the best teams in the Pac-12 and not be putting on the type of play that you've been playing. Playing almost like you should refund every single fan's ticket that's went to a game.
Yeah, I have my own separate situation with that, but because I'm not a Power 5 team. But non-conference is so weird. When it gets to the conference season, it's a whole nother ball game, and teams can flip just like that. But otherwise, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Illinois should have been better, and I believe Oregon should have been better as well. But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Hopefully they'll make a flip in the conference season.
For sure. And then something I think that not many people actually believe could happen was Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor has lost 4 starters, all playing professional ball. And yet somehow, some way, they are the number 1 seed currently in college basketball.
That's a lot. There's a lot of basketball left. So today is December 16th, Ethan. And I mean, you're going to be deciding March Madness. I bit my tongue there. March Madness brackets in March, like around March 16th, around St. Patrick's Day. There's a lot of basketball left. Baylor can, keep it up, and maybe they'll be a 1 seed. Who knows? Or they can do an Illinois and completely implode. We'll see. There's a lot of basketball left, and I think I'm interested to see how Mark Drew, I think that's the coach's name.
Scott Drew. Yeah.
Scott Drew. Close enough. And the Baylor team will do in the conference season in the Big 12.
I'm also interested to see because at the same time, once you lose 4 starters, you're not projected to do much. This team has come together, and Scott Drew is proving how much he is as a leader and as a coach, being able to build this team back up to from the national championship to a contender again. Usually you don't see that, especially after losing 4 starters, unless you're the Dukes or the Kentuckys of the world.
No, it's impressive. Don't get me wrong, it's 4 starters, but you have to remember who these Power 5 conference teams play in the non-conference season. I mean, you're going to be playing teams like East Tennessee State, McNeese State, in your first couple of games. Then you're going to get slightly harder as you get near the end of the non-conference season. You're going to be playing in some tourneys. If you're like a big Power 5 conference team, like, one of the Atlantis tournaments or Vegas tournaments, where you're going to play some tough teams. But other than that, if you're a Power 5 team and you're contending to be the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, or even I would say in at least the top 4 seed, you should be cruising through the non-conference season. That shouldn't be a problem for you. So even though they've lost 4 starters, I think there's still a Power 5 team that's actually supposed to cruise in the Power 5 season. So I think they're doing what they're supposed to do.
True, but at the same time, you don't go and beat Villanova by 21 points.
Villanova's not good. Believe me. Okay, let me take it back. They're good. They're good. But I will say they have definitely dipped off. I saw this team play live this year, and they mainly run through Colin Gillespie. And if Gillespie's not having a good game, even lesser Power 5 conference teams, even some mid-majors, can keep up with Nova. Not saying that they can win the game, but if Colin Gillespie's not firing on all cylinders, I mean, Penn only lost by 15, and I know I'm mentioning Penn again. Gillespie dropped 30. So he had the game of his life, but yet the players around him can't do anything. So even though that is an impressive win for Baylor, I'm not too impressed, as I don't think Nova's going to be as good.
Still, when you beat a top 10 team by 20-plus points, it's always impressive. Yes, it is still an early top 10, but
they won't be in the top 10 by March, Nova. They will drop some games. They just don't have enough depth. I mean, Eric Dixon is such a big body for Nova coming off the bench. I know. I believe he starts now, which is even weirder. I think he was a 3-star recruit at the time. He's such a big body, but he can't shoot. Neither can Slater. He's a more guy who drives. And the only one that can really kind of shoot and do all of it is Gillespie or maybe even Justin Moore. Other than that, I think they're going to really drop some games this year in the Big East because the Big East is tough. They're really tough now.
Agreed. And speaking of the Big East, we've seen some very pleasant surprises, with Seton Hall being one of the top tier teams in that conference. Lost one of their best players ever, and then somehow comes back into this.
Yeah, well, I have a little connection to Seton Hall. I mean, one of the best players I've ever watched play the game of college basketball is now at Seton Hall, a guy named Bryce Aiken. He's so crafty. He's so small but so quick, but he can do everything. He can drive, he can shoot, and with the players around Aiken, Aiken's not I believe Aiken starts for Seton Hall if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think he's their sixth man or starts. It depends on the game.
Yeah, it depends on the game. He's so good. He was a great player out of Harvard, but yet there's players better than him. I'm not surprised Seton Hall is a great team that they are, but they have to back it up in the Big East season. Unless they can back it up in the Big East season, it means nothing to me.
I see where you're coming from with that. And then another team I want to quickly talk about. Alabama.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give credit where credit's due. Memphis destroyed them. They came off that loss, whereas Bama came off an emotional win. Memphis beat them. Okay. You're a preseason top 25 team. I'll allow it. Fine. Iona? Rick Pitino is one of the greatest coaches of all time, but you can't honestly sit here and tell me that the talent on Iona, there's a single starter on Iona that has more talent than one of the players in the rotation of Alabama. That would be a stretch.
No, I don't think they have more talent than Bama. Gales are tough, though. They play a tough style of basketball, and they win a lot. They're going to be a team to watch. I think they're going to make the NCAA tournament as a really low seed, but they could be one of the teams that knock a team off. Iona's really good. But Alabama, I know they had a couple graduate students, one beating Jordan Bruner, who started last year, transferred from Yale. They lost him. Did they lose Javon Quinterly?
Nope. He's going to be one of the best. He's going to be an all SEC first team.
I mean, all right, they have Javon Quinterly, but yeah, they're really underachieving. I'll agree with you there.
I wouldn't necessarily even go that far as underachieving. Just they have two surprise losses.
Okay, yeah. Who's the other surprise loss?
Well, you have Memphis and then Iona.
Oh yeah.
I
don't know if they're actually surprises. I was looking for more of a surprise there. I mean, Iona is actually really good as a mid-major. I believe they're one of the toughest mid-major teams out there. So it's not that bad of a loss. You could have lost to Penn, by the way, who's like 3-10. But no, there are games you shouldn't drop. I agree, but I think they're going to get their act together and they'll be fine.
And speaking of Penn, you mentioned to me earlier today, Ben, Cornell is shutting down their basketball.
Yeah.
Let's transition into COVID. What's happening with that? You have more knowledge on that than I do.
Yeah, so what happened at Cornell is they're having a big outbreak of the Omicron variant, and it's affected a big portion of their campus, and they had to shut the campus down, including athletic events. So they are doing classes virtually. They're doing finals virtually because this is like Ivy final season as well as all college final season. But the concern with Cornell shutting everything down is usually when an Ivy team does something, the rest follows suit. So you could see teams and campuses, as if they get more COVID cases, shut down one by one in the Ivy League. And what we saw the last time is that a lot of other conferences follow the Ivy League because you remember they were the first league to shut things down in terms of their tournament. So this could be a thing where, well, you know what? I don't think it's going to be the same as it was, but I believe, there could be things like there can't be any fans there or limited capacity depending on where you are. But for the Ivy League, they may cancel their season again. I think they're that strict on the Omicron variant.
So you think that there's potential that we have an extra at-large bid?
It just all depends on how the COVID outbreak is doing on their campuses because, again, these are the they're probably one of the biggest experts in the world, the Ivy League. They do a lot of research for vaccinations. They do a bunch of medical research, and whatever whatever the medical experts for the Ivy League schools feel is best, that's what they're going to do. I think it's all decided by the university president, so they're going to get together and say, hey, look, what's happening on your campus, and they could either A, just, all shut down altogether, or B, just slowly drop out until the Ivy League can't be eligible. So yeah, there could be, but we'll have to see. It depends on people's campuses.
And going off of that, we've seen numerous games get canceled. Northwestern, or not perhaps canceled, but like delayed, moved on for a couple, who know how long, maybe weeks, months, who knows. We saw Northwestern, DePaul, as previously mentioned. We saw Kentucky, Ohio State. We saw a few more games. We saw Cleveland State, Duke, which got replaced by I think it was either St. Mary's or Loyola, Maryland. I think it was. So, I'm curious to see how's the season going to end up. Because obviously right now, basketball, Twitter, Instagram, everything's going crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm not a coronavirus expert. That's why I'm not going to the medical field. I applaud our doctors and first responders who are, but I will give an opinion saying that college basketball is in a really weird time of year for diseases such as the flu, the cold, and the coronavirus. I mean, I just had a cold a couple of weeks back because 'tis the season. But it's in that area where it's just going to rise because it just naturally gets colder. And I think what the medical experts and university presidents got to do is they need to be in a meeting and say, okay, if this happens, what's plan B? What's plan C? They need to do whatever is possible, more testing, more, getting the players their booster shots, whatever they can to save this season, because I believe it can happen. I don't believe it's going to be like lockdown last time. But they have to take extra measures to, as Game of Thrones says, survive the winter.
Right. And at this point, I'm curious to see, because obviously neither of us medical experts, but does college basketball continue like it was last year with no fans?
Well, again, it depends on the area. Because some areas are growing more than others. So if one area feels like they can still go full capacity because cases are low, they're going to do it. And I believe that if one area feels like it's like their COVID cases are high and it's a little out of control, they're going to take measures. But I think what's most important here is the athletes and what can we do, restriction-wise or helping the athletes out to get the season done with.
I was not sure how much of the done with is going to be and how much more time it's going to take, to be honest with you, Ben.
Yeah, no, none of us do. The good news for you is that even though cases are high, it just varies by area. So I think if you have, I'm losing my train of thought here. If your team's COVID case is high, all right, shut her down. But if you feel good to keep playing, no one's getting COVID cases, keep playing. I think that's how it's really going to go.
I agree, and I'm really thinking that they're probably going to go March Madness no fans. As of right now, that's my prediction. Because you already had one team drop out last year with a COVID issue. That was with no fans.
Well, I believe the Final Four is in Los Angeles this year, so that's a very good chance that the Final Four could be no fans because Los Angeles and California is way stricter than per se Florida or Arkansas. It just it varies on state. So, and believe me, I think there are areas across the country that I think would be willing to have games. It just depends on our leaders' decision. I mean, I'm more concerned that Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, who are scheduled to have games, won't have games compared to, Florida, Alabama, or well, I don't know if Alabama has it, but Texas and some other states across the country.
Yeah, I'm really just hoping that everything can continue. I want college basketball at this point. Just keep on playing. It's getting bad. I could very well see them calling all games over the break and just saying, "Hey, the rest of non-conference games, you're done," and then we're going to delay all regular conference games for a few weeks and players quarantine for 2 weeks.
But the good news is when you get to March, the weather gets a little warmer, so the disease will stop a little bit. So I'm not concerned that March Madness will happen. I'm not even concerned that fans will be in the building in March, depending on area. It's just that I think you're right. I think they'll shut down the non-conference season and they'll have sort of a league bubble to start with, and then once they feel more comfortable, they'll open up.
For sure. And I'm thinking that this could be one of the craziest seasons. Like, it already has been crazy with the AP poll switching up so much.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy season of basketball. I'm hoping, but I'm hoping COVID will just be a pest or a nuisance, other than a game changer, like in 2020 and that March Madness. But it just depends on, again, doctors getting medical stuff out. I mean, they're hopefully getting a pill out soon, I'm hearing. So it all depends on that, how effective that is. It just depends on a lot of variants. But my hope is that COVID will only be a pest, and we'll have college basketball in 2022. Yeah, I can't believe I just said that. 2022, that's weird.
And Ben, I don't got anything else to say. You?
It's glad to be back like old times.
Yep. We'll see you later. Thank you, guys. Make sure you check out at ATR Madness. Check out our YouTube Creating Madness. Check out our Instagram _Creating Madness.
But you can check out my podcast first.
Yep. See y'all later.